Hello, everyone, and welcome to our safety meeting for July 2026. Thanks for taking the time to be here, and please fill out the attendance form by scanning the QR code displayed on the screen. During this meeting, we'll walk through our recent safety performance, recognize the people who are living our values, cover a few reminders and updates, and then dig into this month's safety topic. Let's get started.
Before we dive in, I want to introduce the HSE team that supports all of us. On the leadership side, we have Susan Barrows, our Chief People and Corporate Services Officer, Byron McWhinney, our HSE Director, Spencer Gagnon, HSE Manager for Program Development, and John Ahus, HSE Manager. Backing them up on the support side are Ed Funk, our Senior HSE Field Advisor, Derek Pelkey, HSE Field Advisor, Dean Eman, HSE Field Specialist, Chantel LaFrance, HSE Advisor for Program Development, and Stacy Moore, our HSE Administrator.
Let's kick things off with our safety moment. This month, we're focusing on summer safety. With the warmer weather here, it's a good time to pause and think about the specific hazards this season brings, both on the job and at home.
Summer brings great opportunities to enjoy the outdoors, but it also comes with added risks. Stay hydrated, take breaks in the shade, wear sunscreen, and watch for signs of heat stress. With more children outside during the summer months, stay alert when driving in residential and recreation areas. A few simple precautions can help keep everyone safe and healthy this summer.
Warmer temperatures bring the risk of heat stress, so it's important to recognize the signs, including dizziness, headaches, heavy sweating, muscle cramps, and nausea. If you or someone around you experiences these symptoms, move to a cool place, hydrate, and seek medical attention if symptoms become severe. Staying hydrated, taking breaks in the shade, wearing lightweight clothing, and applying sunscreen all help protect you whenever you're outside. Now, let's move into our incident review. This is where we take an honest look at what happened over the past month, celebrate what went well, and learn from anything that didn't. Transparency here is what helps us keep improving. The headline for June is a good one: no injuries. We had no injury incidents reported for the entire month. There were a few minor motor vehicle incidents, but none of them were significant. What makes this especially notable is that June was a busy turnaround month for CDN, so a low incident count during that kind of activity is a real accomplishment. Successful turnarounds come down to thorough planning, clear communication, and disciplined execution, and the teams and individuals who planned and managed them deserve real recognition for keeping operations both safe and efficient all month. June 30th also closed out our second quarter, and during that quarter, CDN recorded roughly 405,000 exposure hours, making it one of our busiest quarters to date. Sustaining strong safety performance at that level of activity doesn't happen by accident. It reflects the dedication and vigilance of our entire workforce and our leadership teams. Great work, everyone! I also want to take a moment to recognize our people. In June, 49 employees were nominated for CDN's Care Value. Safety is a core part of living care, so I'd like to congratulate this month's honorees who demonstrated safety excellence: Zach Nielsen, Jaden Okohu, Steve Morocco, Mike Montgomery, Rad Kirova, Karen Dowd, and Carson Mackay.
Thank you all for setting the standard and looking out for one another. Next, let's run through a few reminders and updates. These are the housekeeping items and program notes that help keep everyone aligned and working from the same page. Before anyone gets behind the wheel for CDN, they need to be an approved driver. And this slide walks through exactly how to get there. Start by confirming you're eligible. You must be at least 21 years old, hold a valid non-GDL license, and have a minimum of 5 years of driving history. Next, submit a 3-year driver's abstract. To qualify, it needs to show 3 or fewer total driving convictions, 6 or fewer demerits, and no serious or major convictions. When you're ready to submit, scan the QR code on the slide, open My Profile, select the MVR consent date link, and then complete and upload the required documents. Finish those steps and you'll be approved to drive for CDN. Every worker has 3 fundamental health and safety rights, and this slide is a quick reminder of what they are. The first is the right to know. You're entitled to learn about the hazards in your workplace and the safe procedures for handling them. The second is the right to participate. You can take part in health and safety discussions and activities, and your input matters. The third is the right to refuse. If you believe a task is unsafe, you have the right to refuse that work. If you ever have questions about any of these rights, speak with your supervisor, your HSE representative, or a member of the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee. That brings us to our monthly safety topic. This month, we're focusing on NORM, which stands for Naturally Occurring Radioactive Material. It's an important subject for our industry, so we'll spend the next several slides breaking down what it is, where we encounter it, the health risks involved, and how we protect ourselves and each other. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is NORM? NORM stands for Naturally Occurring Radioactive Material. It refers to elements like uranium, thorium, and their decay products, such as radium, that are found naturally in the Earth's crust. The challenge in our industry is that processes involving changes in temperature and pressure can cause these NORM elements to concentrate and form scale. As uranium and thorium slowly break down, they create radium-226, which shows up as scale and sludge, radon-220, which is a gas, and lead-10, which forms metallic films. Over time, this NORM scale can build up inside piping and equipment, which is exactly what we need to be aware of. Where might we actually encounter NORM on site? It tends to collect wherever fluids flow or settle over time. Common locations include separators, tanks and vessels, piping and tubing, and valves and meters. You'll also find it in filters and filter pots, produced water systems, and LPG equipment and propane filters. And keep confined spaces in mind, since NORM can accumulate in those areas too. The takeaway here is that it can be present across a lot of the equipment we work with every day, so it's worth knowing the hotspots. Now, let's talk about how exposure actually happens. NORM isn't a concern when it's sealed inside equipment. The risk comes when we disturb it. That typically occurs during maintenance and repairs, cleaning tanks, vessels and piping, and changing filters. It also happens during waste handling and processing, equipment decommissioning, and any cutting, grinding, blasting, or welding on contaminated equipment. The single most important thing to remember on this slide is that the greatest risk is inhaling contaminated dust when scale, sludge, or deposits get disturbed. How do we recognize potential NORM before we start work?
There are a few common indicators to watch for. Look for scale buildup inside piping or equipment, and sludge or residue in tanks and separators. Deposits in valves, meters, and filters are another red flag, as are produced water systems and their associated equipment. If you spot any of these signs, treat the equipment as potentially containing norm and follow the proper precautions rather than assuming it's clean. Why do we take this so seriously? It comes down to health effects. Long-term radiation exposure raises the risk of cancer. And the primary concerns with NORM are lung cancer and leukemia. As we've noted, inhaling dust from disturbed scale, sludge, or deposits is a key pathway for exposure. It's also worth knowing that radon gas is Canada's second leading cause of lung cancer. The good news is that these risks are manageable. The right controls, good hygiene, and proper PPE all work together to reduce exposure and protect you. This slide covers how we control NORM and protect ourselves. Start with the 3 radiation protection principles: time, distance, and shielding. Limit the time you spend near contaminated equipment, stay as far from the source as you reasonably can, and use barriers or shielding where they're available. Beyond that, focus on preventing exposure. Avoid creating airborne dust when disturbing scale or sludge. And never eat, drink, or smoke in NORM areas. Always decontaminate before breaks or before leaving the area. And wear the required PPE, which includes gloves, coveralls, and a respirator. Before any work starts, there are a few things we need to have in place. Begin with a hazard assessment so you understand what you're dealing with. From there, determine the controls and PPE the job requires, and consider respiratory protection, gloves, and disposable coveralls wherever they're needed. Make sure decontamination and waste handling requirements are established up front, and confirm that all controls are actually in place to prevent exposure before the first tool comes out. A little planning here goes a long way toward keeping everyone safe. On the last slide, we talked about completing a NORM hazard assessment before work begins. But that assessment isn't a one-and-done exercise. A job that was safe when you built the assessment can become hazardous as conditions shift. So the plan you started with has to keep pace with the work. That's the message here. Your hazard assessment is the starting point, not the finish line. Reassess it whenever conditions change or the job is interrupted, rather than assuming the original assessment still holds. On the next slide, we'll break down exactly when to reassess and what to do when you do. Let's close by tying reassessment back into everyday work. Reassessing hazards means stopping to identify new hazards and verify controls whenever work conditions change. Reassess when the weather changes, the work scope changes, new equipment or tools arrive, new workers enter the area, a task is interrupted, or conditions differ from the plan. The reason is simple. Conditions that were safe at the start of the job may not stay safe through the shift, and existing controls may no longer be effective. When that happens, update the field-level hazard assessment by involving affected workers, recording reassessment times, and following site and CDN procedures. Then communicate. Share the new hazards and controls. Make sure affected workers understand the changes and update and sign the FLHA. Remember the message: stop, reassess, and communicate. That wraps up our safety meeting for this month. Thank you all for your time, your attention, and most importantly, for the commitment you bring to safety every single day. Please take these messages back to your teams and, if you haven't already, fill out your attendance by scanning the QR code. Keep looking out for one another and stay safe out there.